There are many comments out the gate here talking about measuring flat in room, and we already know that measuring flat in room is not the same thing as measuring flat anechoic. They're two totally different animals, and one is going to sound wildly different than the other. Matt Holland. Matt Holland says, my therapist told me I must not take the bait. Well, I'm taking the bait. Recently, there was an interview with Michael Børresen of Børresen Speakers. Now, Børresen Speakers is handled through Audio Group Denmark, and there are a lot of brands underneath that umbrella. I reviewed one of the Børresen speakers, it's probably been about a year now. It was the Børresen X3, which retails for about $13,000 per pair. In that review, I had some pretty significant complaints about the tonal accuracy of that speaker. There was some feedback from the manufacturer that was sent out to their dealers, if I recall correctly, not trying to get sued by anybody. And then I responded publicly to those concerns and shut the comments down because I didn't want to have a tit for tat with people in the comment section. And really, I just didn't want the comment section to explode with people dogging on Børresen. Said my piece, and that was it. The video that I'm talking about here came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was sent this link many times. I watched the video, and there were a few things that I thought, yeah, okay, and there were a few things that I rolled my eyes at. I came across the Headphonesty article, and Headphonesty, if you're not familiar with them, is a website that, in my opinion, basically just kind of summarizes the latest news. They have some clickbait stuff. They have some stuff that isn't really clickbait. And there's a lot of stuff that's kind of in between. I don't know these people that are related to this website at all, but I did reach out to them a little while back and say, you've got some articles that I plan to discuss. This was not one of them, but now it is. However, what I really wanted to focus on was the comments to the Headphonesty article on their Facebook page. Let's dive in. Okay. So first off, let's start with the Headphonesty post. Headphonesty says, if it measures flat, it will sound peaky, according to Børresen in an interview. Now let's look at some of the comments. To start off with, Kenneth Baker, he says, this also depends on where it measures flat, what conditions, etc. He's not wrong. The truth is, when you talk about measures flat or measures anyway, you've got to say what you mean when you're talking about it. Are you talking about measures anechoic flat? Are you talking about measures in room flat? Are you talking about anechoic on axis, or are you talking about anechoic off axis response? This all matters, and they are very distinctly different, which leads me to Tony's response down here. Tony says, I went down this rabbit hole with my primary system, measuring, room treatment, correction, etc. When I finally got as close as I could to measuring flat, I learned it wasn't a sound I enjoyed. Now, when speaker designers are talking about measuring flat, most of them, any one of them that's sane, will automatically already be talking about flat anechoic. It's on us, unfortunately, to understand that that's what they mean. Now, I've been doing this long enough that I understand just by default, flat from a speaker engineer is going to mean flat anechoic without a room response, okay? But for a consumer that just isn't aware of these things, they assume, which I think any consumer would, that the manufacturer is talking about flat in the room. And this is the manufacturer's fault. This is the speaker engineer's fault. This is not the consumer. The engineer, the manufacturer, they need to tell you that when they say flat or a certain way at all, they're talking about either anechoic on axis, anechoic off axis, or in room, and whatever other conditions apply. Those kind of things, when they don't tell us that, create these kind of confusion. So Tony, dude, it ain't your fault. It's the manufacturer. They should tell you. They should be more explicit, okay? If flat measuring speaker somehow sounds peaky, then it is the listener's ear and personal subjective processing bias brain at work. Sure, that could be true, but really, if a flat measuring speaker somehow sounds peaky, that doesn't tell me anything. What I need to know is, are you talking about flat anechoic or flat in room? Again, two hugely different things. If you said flat in room, I would say your ears are going to probably bleed and there's going to be no bass. If you said flat anechoic, I would say that's a really good starting point. And then I would say, what's the off axis look like? Dan, assuming that all of the equipment is properly up to it, an actual flat response in a properly set up and treated room is simply a form of frequency level neutrality. If you then do not like the sound, look to problems within the recording you are hearing. there are many that are not that good. First of all, Dan is right about the recordings. And this is something that's very important to understand as well. You can literally have the exact same album with two different streaming services and hear a difference. And it's not that the streaming quality is better. It could be that they use two different masterings. That alone. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Which master am I listening to? Is this a new remaster that has been EQ'd differently or gained differently, compressed differently, mixed differently? I mean, some remasters can have channels swapped. Okay? So there's a lot of things that can be done between different albums. The part of this that I want to pick on is an actual flat response in a properly set up and treated room is simply a form of frequency level neutrality. Okay, so maybe he's talking about how our ears hear things, but I'm going to go back to flat response in a properly set up and treated room. Again, you don't want flat response in a room. No. Flat response in a room is bad. Are you noticing a trend here where I keep asking anechoic versus in room? Okay, good. You're paying attention. So allow me a little bit to give you a brief rundown of what I mean here, because this is extremely important for these kind of conversations. On-axis response is going to be referred to as the anechoic response, because on my channel, I do objective measurements using anechoic measurements, unless I specifically call out in room, which is pretty rare these days. So with that in mind, anechoic means without echo. So you would take a measurement and there's no reflections involved in that measurement's response. Okay. So on axis is the speaker pointing directly at you, firing directly at you. And then off axis will be a measurement with the microphone off to the side of the speaker, capturing the energy that's sent out to the side of the speaker, behind the speaker, above and below the reference axis. You can use all of these measurements to give you a good prediction for what the response is going to be like in room. It's not perfect. And if you have a room with one side wall and no side wall on the other wall, or if you listen in a room maybe that has no side walls, it's wide open versus a room that's really small, these all matter, okay? And I try to discuss these in my videos. Let me give you a quick example. So anechoic on axis would be this dark red, and that's this line right here. And you can see that it's pretty dang flat. Off axis would be the angles out to about 90 degrees, and you can go even 180 degrees. But for this graphic, I'm only going to 90 degrees to the side of the speaker. So you can see 10, 20, 30, and you just kind of trailing off in intensity as you go higher. Well, the reason for this, most standard speakers, most monopole speakers, are mainly forward radiating as you go from the mid-range to the higher frequency. So you can see in the bass region, yeah, it's pretty much the same energy all the way around the speaker from 0 to side of the speaker at 90 degrees, right? And then as you go to the side of the speaker and higher in frequency, there's less information being sent out to the side of the speaker. So you're about 12 to 13 decibels down at about 10 kilohertz if you're directly to the side of the speaker versus if you're standing in front of the speaker. What I'm going to do is give you two examples real fast of a good speaker and a bad speaker. I'm going to show you the on-axis response and the estimated in-room response of each of these speakers. The on-axis response, it's within about plus or minus 3 decibels or so, up to about 10K. And I think this would pass the test for most people if all they know is they need something that's flat, anechoic, on-axis response. Okay, but when you put the speaker in a room, this is what happens. It dips down, it dips down, it dips down. So you have less and less radiation, as we saw, going to the side of the speaker, less reflection. And then that means that there's going to be more energy in the lower bass. However, this particular speaker is not a good one because it has a poor crossover design. And because of this, you have poor handoff between the midwoofer and the tweeter above it. And what that does is that means that you have wide radiation narrowing to the upper frequency of the mid-range. And then the tweeter comes in and it's very wide again and it narrows again. So you have this bump in this 3 to 4 kilohertz region and you have a shelf in the treble. This speaker is going to sound very bright. Now, I'm not talking about with EQ or anything. I'm talking about just the plain speaker by itself. This is a bad speaker design. Now let's compare it to another speaker. This has very, very good on-axis response, nice and linear. And of course, it already has a leg up on the other one because the other one is not quite as linear. But, you know, for the purpose of this experiment, it's kind of hard to find a really good on-axis speaker with terrible off-axis response, luckily. That said, there do exist some, but we're going to look at this case. Now, if we bring in the estimated in-room response, you can see that this kind of does pretty much what you would expect. Textbook-wise, it's falling off axis at a pretty standard rate of level as you increase in frequency, okay? So if you were to take this blue line and you were to try to EQ that flat because somebody told you that flat in your room sounds great, you're going to boost this treble up and you're going to make this flat anechoic speaker a very boosted anechoic speaker, because then you're going to say, hey, above 200 hertz, let's just start EQing up. And then everything is going to be pretty much the inverse of this for the anechoic response. And by that alone, you're going to know, man, this is going to sound like an incredibly bright speaker with no bass in the room if you EQ'd it flat. So lesson number 1, don't EQ a speaker flat in your room. Arvin says it has been that way. This is where preferences kick in. Cough EQ mode, purist melted. Okay, so let's talk about preferences. The majority of people, like 8 to 9 out of 10 people, Headphonesty, I think, says it's 86% of people have a very dominant preference for a certain type of speaker that measures a certain type of way. This is backed up by decades worth of research. Floyd Toole talks about it in his book. Some of you are probably rolling your eyes, but guys, it's a literal science and it's literally proven. Nobody's making this stuff up. Now, if you want to talk about preference from album to album, 100% with you. Tonality knob, EQ, do whatever changes you want. But if you're talking about buying a speaker for the rest of your life, then buy one that's neutral, but also takes well to changes made via EQ, because not all speakers work well with EQ if they have a really crappy crossover. Marty says the BBC got it right. A couple dB dip across the mid-range and a little bump around 90 hertz gets you a warm, pleasing response. The 90 hertz bump thing, I'm going to leave that out for now. The couple dB dip across the mid-range and the BBC. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons why the dip in the BBC curve is there, and it's also identified in this article. I'll just say that in my experience, having heard many speakers with this little dip in the crossover region, and I can tell you that it's almost always not intentional, by the way. And in the case of Børresen, I think it actually is intentional, but a lot of speakers unintentionally had that dip, so you're not getting the same effect of purposely having a dip through that region. It's a poor crossover design, and it happens to wash out that way. That said, I almost always notice that there is missing some zest, some sparkle, some pizzazz, some forwardness, some attack, some distinction, some dialogue clarity in that 2 to 4 kilohertz region if there's a dip there. And if there is not a dip there and it's more neutral through that region, then it sounds more natural. The attack of a snare sounds better. Dialogue, speech intelligibility is higher. If there's a little bit too much in that region, then yeah, it can hurt your ears. And personally, I've noticed if it's like 1 to 2 decibels up through that region, it's much more noticeable than if it's 1 to 2 decibels down through that region. So I think a lot of people have gotten used to hearing speakers that are 3+ decibels dipped in that region, and it doesn't really offend them. It doesn't bother them. But if they come across a speaker that has a peak in that area, maybe say from a poor crossover design, but mainly possibly due to a breakup of a woofer cone in that region, they're going to notice it because it comes off as very aggressive, very forward, or even shrill. Okay. So I think that the reason people tend to harp on that area being a problem is because the effect of a peak in that area is much more noticeable than the effect of a dip. And if it's not riding that line perfectly, then it's going to be an issue if it's too much, way more than it's going to be an issue if it's a little bit dipped too much. Knowing that you can have flat on axis and not flat off axis, and the fact that you don't want flat in a room response, let's go back and evaluate this quote, okay? If it measures flat, it will sound peaky. All right, now you should know just by logical deduction that it will sound peaky is a very misleading statement. The truth is it can sound peaky, but that has nothing to do with the fact that it measures flat on its own. You have to take into account the overall radiation pattern of the speaker. What's it doing in the room? So that's it. Now, my hope here is that you've learned there are distinctions to be made. Anytime an engineer talks about flat measuring speakers, but question out the gate before you finish reading, just go ahead and say, all right, are we talking flat in room or flat anechoic response? And if you're talking about flat in room, you can already say, yeah, that's going to sound like shit. If you're talking about flat anechoic, then you also have to ask the other question, what does the off-axis response look like as well? With that said, I will talk to y'all later. Take care.